Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our early review of the Hoka Bondi 9. So the Hoka Bondi 9 is a pretty substantial update to the long-running line, one of Hoka's most popular shoes, the kind of original max cushioned cruiser, and the ninth version of it has got even bigger in terms of the amount of foam underfoot, but it's actually a slightly lighter shoe than its predecessor because of the way that Hoka has changed up the midsole materials. It's a slightly more expensive shoe though. It's £160 or $170. It weighs in at 313 grams or 11 ounces in a UK size 9, which is a US size 9.5, and it's not a light shoe, but it's about par for the course with other big cushion shoes like the Asics Gel Nimbus or Saucony Triumph 22. Then you've got the classic 5mm Hoka drop, and like I say, a slightly increased stack height. So on the men's shoe, it's 43mm at the heel and 38 at the forefoot, which is a 2mm rise on the previous model. I think the women's shoe is 42mm at the heel and 37mm at the forefoot. So the big update to the Bondi, along with that extra stack height, is the fact that Hoka is now using a supercritical EVA foam in the midsole as opposed to the compression molded EVA foam that's been standard on the Bondi and most of its shoes. This brings the Bondi into line with shoes like the Hoka Skyflow and the Hoka Max 6 that use that supercritical EVA foam. It sits at the top of Hoka's neutral cushioned range of shoes as the most expensive and most cushioned option, with the only shoe now using that compression molded EVA being the new Clifton 10, which I've also been testing out, which has a slightly higher drop than the other Hoka shoes as well. It's a bit different now and a bit cheaper all round, but the Bondi is designed to be the ultimate cushion cruiser within the Hoka range, thanks to that bumped up stack height and now the use of their best foam for this kind of shoe. So along with that supercritical foam, you've got the usual Hoka stuff in terms of the midsole geometry with that rocker design and sidewalls of foam that your foot sits in almost like a bucket seat to add some stability there. You've now got an engineered mesh upper on the shoe with lots of padding on the tongue and collar at the back of the shoe, as you expect from a cushion shoe like this. You've got a higher heel tab than you had on the Bondi 8, and you've still got that internal heel counter to add some stability at the back of the shoe. And the bottom of the shoe, you've got a durabrasion rubber outsole with rubber covering almost segmented pods on the bottom of the shoe there in the key impact areas. It's not a very extensive full outsole or anything like that, but shouldn't be a problem in terms of durability, and I've had no concerns of grip on my early runs, having used the shoe in fairly icy, unpleasant conditions here in the UK. When it comes to the fit of the Hoka Bondi 9, I've got my normal size here, which is a UK 9 or a US 9.5. I get on really well with Hoka shoes in terms of fit because I have quite a narrow foot and I tend to be a little on the small side for my size. So the fact that the UK 9 is a US 9.5 works for me. In fact, they tend to have fairly narrow designs, also works for me. But the Bondi 9 is going to come in a wide range of width, so you shouldn't have any problems in terms of that if you are someone with a wider foot. And the fit's been really comfortable for me all round. Enough room in the toes, good hold around the heel and midfoot with that plush cushioning on the tongue and heel, really giving you that nice step-in feel with the shoe. I've had no heel slippage at all so far either. So yeah, I'd stick to your normal size running shoes. If you've used any other Hoka running shoes in the past, it'll be the same with the Bondi 9. Maybe just look out for the width of it and look for a wider option if you are someone who's found them a bit narrow in the past. So I've been out for a couple of runs in the Hoka Bondi 9 ahead of today, which is kind of the launch embargo day for the shoe. I've done 2 easy hours in it basically. I think I've run about 27k in total. Pretty relaxed stuff, doing runs on consecutive days, the day after a really hard 30k long run, and then recovered in the Bondi 9, which is going to be primarily the main use for the shoe for me. This would be the kind of shoe I would slip into rotation at the easy end of things to use for recovery runs, very flat out easy runs. But there will be runners who will look at this more as a daily trainer, as a cushion shoe they can use for everything. If you're more focused on fitness or a slightly heavier runner or someone who's just starting out in the sport, you've got a very protective and cushioned shoe here, which might well be what you're really looking for in a shoe at that time. So I wasn't really a fan of the Hoka Bondi 8. I found it was quite a big blocky shoe. It was pretty heavy, didn't really feel like it rolled through very well. The foam didn't have much life to it. I think there was certainly better max cushion shoes out there, and I was looking forward to this update because I do like the supercritical foam Hoka uses. I really like the Hoka Skyflow, I really like the Hoka Max 6. Interested to see how it feels in a big cushion shoe like this, because it's not necessarily the softest foam, the supercritical foam that Hoka uses. So even though it's marketed as this big plush cushion shoe, I think it does offer that comfort. But I was hoping it might have a slightly stiffer ride and might roll you through quite well, and have a little bit of bounce in it as well. So far, however, it hasn't really clicked for me, I'm afraid to say. I do think it's an improvement on the Bondi 8, but the Bondi 9 on those 2 runs, it's just not really got into gear for me. I haven't really felt like I've been able to run very smoothly and naturally in the shoe. It's got the rocker, and I do think the heel transition is quite nice as a heel striker, but once I hit the forefoot, I find that the ride just feels a bit stunted. I don't really get either a nice nice roll off that forefoot rocker, which doesn't seem to work for me as well as the ones on other Hoka shoes, and so it doesn't feel like it's giving you a load of life or response underfoot either. So like I said, I've not been trying to run quick in these 2 runs. I did pick up the pace a little bit just to see how it feels, just for 100 meters, 200 meters or so, but I was just hoping for a nice relaxing shoe to pick up those easy miles while protecting the legs, and definitely protects the legs. I've got no concerns about that. Like, I've pulled up well after that hard long run, recovering in this shoe and doing those recovery miles, but it just felt like a shoe that I couldn't really just forget about on the run. And on the 2 runs so far, like I say, I haven't really been able to get into a nice sync with that rocker, which I do normally find I can do on Hoka shoes, and I have done with the Clifton 10 with that slightly higher drop I've been running in lately, so it has the Skyflow, and yeah, it just hasn't really moved very well for me, and that's all I really look for in these days shoe. I want a nice bit of comfort underfoot, I want protection, but I want it to move well and just not be something I'm thinking about too much on the run. I haven't really found that to be the case with the Bondi. Don't really feel like it's a big heavy shoe though. I think the weight's been quite well balanced with this new midsole. Like on the scales, it's not a light shoe, but it doesn't feel that big on the foot to me. Like, it doesn't feel like a big block on the end of my foot like I sometimes felt with the Bondi 8, but like I say, it's more that the ride feel hasn't really got into gear for me yet, and maybe it's a case of just beating a bit more life into this midsole by breaking it in over time, because it is a big stack of, like I say, not the softest foam, so maybe it will soften a little bit over time and just ease out that rocker under the forefoot. Might be a case that heavier runners get a bit more from it as well, because they're already kind of pushing into that foam a bit more and getting a bit more life out of it. So far I've not quite got what I wanted out of the Bondi 9 as a big protective, but nice rolling smooth shoe to use on easy runs, so maybe we'll see a bit more of that as some further testing goes on, and Mike's also going to test the shoe ahead of our full review as well. So early verdict, I think you've got a better foam here, and I think you've got a better Bondi than the previous model all round, but I'm still not sure it really merits its spot at the top of Hoka's cushioned lineup. Like, I do prefer the Skyflow and the Clifton so far based on my testing, and I think they are still very cushioned shoes that just have slightly easier feel to them on the run. Like I say, I might not be exactly the target for this Bondi shoe. I think people who may be looking for all-out protection, all-out comfort, and maybe a bit heavier than me, they might get a bit more from it, but I still think you get loads of comfort and protection from a shoe like the Skyflow, and it just has a more natural ride that ticks over a bit better for me. But it is still pretty early days in testing. Like I say, I've only done 2 runs in it, like less than 30k. Do a lot more running in it to see if the midsole eases up, see how it compares to some other big shoes on the market that I've liked over the past year or so. It does remind me, the silhouette, a little bit of the Saucony Hurricane 24, which is a shoe I did really like, and that's because it does have a really nice transition and a little bit of life from the midsole as you come off your toes on that shoe. And again, I'm not looking at it as a shoe to do anything quick in, but it just feels a bit more comfortable and natural at easy paces. And so far, the Bondi, I just feel like I'm rolling well to about here and then kind of getting a slightly stunted feeling to the ride, which, yeah, just doesn't make it as fun to use as some other shoes. It's perfectly fine, protects the legs well, but just wouldn't be my pick so far. But yeah, we'll see how it pulls up over the course of a full review. Like I say, Mike's going to get involved in that full review, but so far all the changes to the Bondi I think have improved the shoe, but Hoka has so many really good shoes now in its cushion lineup. I'm not sure it really stands out either against those or indeed the best options from other brands. That's our first look at the Hoka Bondi 9. Let us know what you think in the comments below. As mentioned, this is just after a couple of runs. Full review to come with our complete opinions on the shoe and comparisons to other shoes, but dive in if you have any thoughts on the shoe in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.